long ago. Two brothers in the field, one had blood on his hands, one lay there still. God said, Cain, where is my child, your flesh and blood? The response God heard was, am I my brother's keeper? Should I care what happens to Now I'm standing here, and I can't believe my eyes. Anger, hate, and rage over helping others just get by. Say, don't you pay? They don't work any way. Maybe they're strangers in our land. Don't you dare lend a helping hand. Am I my brother's keeper? Should I care what happens to So I kneel and now I pray for forgiveness in our land from a gracious, loving God who told us to be his hands. Had it his way, this would be a place where another's needs come first, for better or our worse. Yet still we ask, am I my brother's keeper? Should I care what happens to him? Am I my brother's keeper? Shouldn't he get what's coming to him? Oh.
Music, like any art form, can easily be taken for granted. Mozart was the first independent artist to ever be paid for a commissioned musical composition. That would have been sometime around 1785. Since that first transaction, music has been a form of artistry that rewards composers and writers for their talent. Today's young bands hold lofty ambitions of making a career out of music, but with an unlimited amount of free entertainment options, live show and concert attendance is flat, and there is an irreversible decline in the desire to buy music to own. Younger generations still want to listen to music, but have been conditioned to believe it should be free, forcing the question we're all thinking but are too scared to ask. What would happen if artists couldn't afford to create new music anymore? What would happen if the music just stopped? I'm Damon Evans, founder and CEO of Arena Music. Arena Music is the most innovatively disruptive business model the music industry has seen since Napster. It stands alone from other platforms that solely rely on subscription revenue by leveraging free music streaming to attract the listeners we convert to merchandise customers. Arena was formed by working backwards into the solution. We started by saying we want to pay artists a full penny per stream. Then we set about the task of figuring out just how that could be done. When you hear about an artist streaming 10 million tracks on Spotify, or that an album has been in the top 10 at Pandora for 2 weeks, it sounds like a really big deal, but you have to understand how paid subscription services work. From every monthly $10 subscription payment, the platform keeps $4 for overhead, leaving just $6 to be divided between all the tracks streamed by that user in a 30-day period. It's a little-known secret that the most commonly used streaming services are either financed by the major labels or in some way partnered with them. So all this really means is that the deck is beyond stacked against independent artists. It's easy to guess which tracks and titles will get the lion's share of that remaining $6. As a result, artists are struggling to manage the decision between growing their fan base by streaming their music or monetizing their content through some other means while limiting when and how their music is streamed. This is why we say music subscription services are where musicians go to die. This is clearly evident in the fact that not one single subscription platform in existence today, whether publicly traded or financed through multiple rounds of venture capital, has ever turned a profit. Subscription revenue alone simply cannot advance music creation. Arena Music is an on-demand merchandising storefront that leverages a free streaming service to help artists monetize their content in an industry where consumers no longer buy music to own. Arena Music is the first merchandising platform built on the concept of fair pay for artists and free play for listeners. By leveraging music as a loss leader, Arena is helping artists and labels redirect consumer attention to exclusive merchandise offerings. What makes Arena unique from all existing streaming platforms is its ability to monetize an ecosystem with outside industry revenues. Arena's merchandising service also manages the bulk merchandising needs for touring bands, as well as nationally recognized brands who sell soft good products in the automotive, medical, and outdoor sports industries. Being this diversified has allowed us to give music consumers what they want, an ad-free and commercial-free subscription option, while paying artists and labels the highest rates in the world for music streams and merchandise sales.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that this has been sort of a process for both of us since you're our first show.
Sure, no problem.
Got to work out a lot of the kinks.
That's always the case, starting something new. Yeah.
So we thank you in advance for your forgiveness on that.
Of course.
So tell us, can you maybe take us on a musical journey that you've been through your life that has led you to this place where you want to now start featuring yourself as an artist?
Sure. Well, music has always been a really important, big part of my life, as long as I can remember, from as far back. I mean, my family on both sides, musicians, singers, songwriters. So it's kind of in my blood. It started from my grandpa and grandma and aunt actually had a trio in radio show back in the Midwest.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, like
very
in
cool.
the 40s, you know.
Oh, wow.
And he actually kind of created his own little hee-haw show.
Oh, nice.
on radio. And he traveled all over singing and playing. And then on the other side, my family, the women were praise and worship leaders all through. My mom's a praise and worship leader. My grandmother was. My great-grandmother.
Wow.
And great-great.
Wow.
And we don't know how far back that goes.
Wow.
But as far back
Faith
as...
runs deep.
It really does. And, in these little country churches out in the boondocks and the holler,
Yeah,
they were singing and leading worship. And then my mom as a worship leader, and I started leading worship at 15. So really, and my dad's an accomplished guitar player. Pretty much everyone on each side of the family is musical in some way.
Wow.
So it runs deep.
Wow, what
with
a
me.
blessing! What a blessing! And so, what do you have that's out already? What do you have that's that people can go find?
Yeah, well, I have a YouTube channel, and so I post stuff on there. I have a couple of videos, one that was professionally done of What Are Your Values, the song that you heard today, and a lot of other stuff that's just, throwing together some videos and just indie artist stuff, just putting together me singing with a piano or whatever. But within the next year, 2019, there's going to be a real increase in that. And
All
I'm
right,
looking forward
2019 is the year.
2019 is the year.
We've
of
been waiting
music.
for this year.
I've been waiting a long time.
Awesome. Well, I think right now let's take a break and have a look at your song. What are your values?
Okay. There's so much on the radio, TV and the paper and such about what it is to be a Christian and the family values we hold up. And I see the signs and I hear the condemnation given to a world so lost and confused. When there he is all the time, arms open wide, asking you, what are your values? Is one hatred? Is one verbal abuse? 'Cause you don't like them. Well, I've seen too much and I've had enough. 10 abomination to use God's word without love. Tell me, what would Jesus say? What are his values? I was hungry and you fed me. I was poor and you helped me. Was a stranger, you invited me in. Now you turn away, point your finger, act in judgment without compassion. Then spend millions of dollars, use hundreds of hours that could be used to counsel, help, give clothes, aid, or food. Jesus loved and ate with sinners, cared for the sick, preached against the hypocrites at whitewashed tombs. What are your values? Is one hatred? Is one verbal abuse? 'Cause you don't like them there. Well, I've seen too much and I've had enough. 10 abomination to use God's word without love. Tell me, what would Jesus say? What are his values? And it's not about sin. He's done more right, he's done more wrong. He doesn't see us as who's better than who. It's a relationship, full surrender to a loving God, the Christ beyond the judgment seat, not you. What are your values? Is one hatred? Is one verbal abuse? 'Cause you don't like them there. Well, I've seen too much and I've had enough. 10 abomination to use God's word without love. Tell me, what would Jesus say? Yeah. What are his values?
All right, so we just had a look at What Are Your Values, the live version from in studio here with Christina Forrester. And I'm back to ask her now a little bit about this song because she's had this song professionally done for a video. It's on her YouTube channel, so go check that out. So can you walk us through maybe that process? Because I know shooting a video versus what we're doing is a little bit different. You've pre-recorded the song. Where did you do that? Who was involved? Did you like the process? Did you hate the process? Were you frustrated at any moments? Those types of things?
I loved the process, and
Good.
I would love to do it again. I absolutely loved it. I actually filmed it in Nashville, and there's a production company called Sales Creative that did the production on it, and we did it at a kind of like a house right around the railroad tracks. And
I saw there's lots of railroad tracks.
Yeah,
in your video,
and it was across the street from this old church, and so we thought that would give a good location for the song to kind of show this old church behind me.
Yeah.
And get out on the railroad tracks. And so it was weird lip syncing,
to your own
the
song,
song and doing it in time. That was kind of weird. And then playing bass.
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
The bass,
I noticed that you were playing bass in the video,
Yeah.
and here you're playing guitar. I mean, how many instruments do you play? And then you mentioned keyboards and
Well, keyboard
everything
is
else.
kind of my main instrument, I guess. But I
Gotcha.
actually started with drums. I started playing drums when I was about 5 years old.
Got to keep time.
Drums was my thing. And I always say to people, if you're going to start playing music and you want to play more than one instrument, start with drums, because that's your foundation for tempo and just how a song is constructed. So I started playing drums. I was playing in church at about 8 years old, and I stuck with that until my teens. And then I got into playing piano and leading worship with piano. And I do play some guitar, and then I play bass, and I play bass upside down. I'm left-handed, if you couldn't tell.
Like with your feet?
Well, I play
You
bass.
do a handstand and wear your bass?
Exactly, and then play keys with the other hand. No, I actually learned to play a right-handed bass. I play a left-handed guitar, but I play a right-handed bass, and I just flip it the other way. I had to get the bass custom made, actually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I bet there's not a lot of bass players that are doing that.
Yeah, it's just my brain. I don't know. It just works that way.
That's great. I mean, if whatever works. I mean, a lot of people get caught up, I think, in process and form when really it's a creative thing, right? Like, It doesn't really matter how it works. You can I've seen percussionists use all sorts of different things as percussion tools that are musical.
Oh, gosh.
I've seen guys use pots and pans on the beach.
Actually, one church that I play drums at when I was living in Washington, D.C., I was playing drums at a church, and they had no drumsticks. And it was about half an hour before church was supposed to start. And we had, I'm like, okay, where are the drumsticks? Like, there aren't any. Didn't you bring some? I'm like, no one told me to bring drumsticks.
Right.
So I got 2 ink pens and got some duct tape. And,
Duct tape will fix
and I
anything,
duct
right?
taped the ink pens together, and I made my own drumsticks.
Nice.
I posted a picture on my Instagram.
Pro tip, everybody. Pro
tip: a couple of ink pens and some duct tape, and you've got a couple drumsticks.
Well, I've had guys show up on my stage that have custom built their cajones. One guy that places a metal piece. He literally fastens a metal piece to give it more of a snare pop.
Oh, fun!
And he plays it with these really soft sticks. I think they're like hot rods, but they're plastic.
Okay.
Right, but he tapes them around so that after he beats on them long enough, they kind of form this curve.
Oh.
And there's been times he showed up on the stage and needed some tape for either his stick or the metal piece. And duct tape and gaff tape that's my go-to.
Whatever works, Like you said, it's about the creativity.
Right, and we made an instrument and we had a great show. So that's
absolutely.
That's all that matters. So do you have anything lined up? Are you performing here? I know you said you've been in Nashville and Washington D.C., sold out theaters everywhere, I'm sure. Are you playing Are you playing anywhere here in town where us locals can go see you?
Right now I'm playing on YouTube for the most part.
Perfect.
But no, I am looking.
You don't even have to dress up for that.
You don't. But I am looking at some local gigs.
Pajama sessions, right?
Yeah. I will update the local gigs on my Facebook page as they begin. I've really been focused on some other projects, and I just haven't been focused on my music like I want to be. And so now
I
is
know
a
that I can
new
speak for
start
Sean.
for that.
I know that I can speak for Sean and myself that we're all excited to see more music come from you.
Great.
Really love your original stuff. Full disclosure, I had the opportunity to mix for Christina's family band at a gig out in Apache Junction, and I had a great time mixing it. There's a lot of music I think that gets lost in the shuffle with people trying to play popular stuff, and it's not that what you were playing wasn't popular. It's just not pop music. It's it was popular music.
Yeah.
In the 50s and 60s and 70s, and some of the stuff that you guys played just evokes so much memory. There was some Hank Williams in there, and some other like old school stuff that you guys played. And I was really happy to come out and mix that show, and really surprised at the setup that Apache Junction put up for you guys.
Yeah, I mean that's fun. We do the city events, and I play and sing at my church on a weekly basis. So every Sunday I'm leading worship or on the worship team in some form. I also lead worship at other churches throughout the valley at times. And I update that on my page. But yeah, that was incredible. Having the sound and having it sound right and having a real sound guy, that was amazing. I'm spoiled now. I can't ever sing anywhere again unless I have a sound guy doing what you were doing.
It was great to
do that.
Yeah, it was great to do that. It's an understated thing to have someone working the soundboard that's in sync with what's going on the stage.
Yeah.
And it's the reason people pay big money to make an album, is because you have to have that. Those two things have to be in sync.
Right.
The person that's translating what the acoustic artist is doing into a recordable format. Those things have to be in sync. And if it's not in sync, it gets boring. It gets dull. It loses its excitement, I feel like.
Well, and dynamics too. Like you can do your best to instill dynamics in a song, but some of the effects and the things that you're doing to build up, and that just adds this whole new dimension.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to hopefully
when you did
work with you
Unchained
more.
Melody, it was amazing. I thought you nailed it in every way, and all I could do was help it.
Oh, thank you.
I think I would have had to really work to hurt that performance.
So
if you guys ever catch Christina Forrester out gigging, make sure you request Unchained Melody, because it was amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, let's have another look at your, what's the next song we're going to have a look at?
Well, this next song is The Stories I've Heard. And this is really a song about family, and about family that has gone on, either that we've heard stories about through our lives and we never got to meet. They might capture our imagination, feel a kinship to them, feel something, a connection with those family. Or maybe you did meet them, but you were young and you weren't able to really get to know them. But
I feel like that story that you're telling kind of connects with what you were saying, how the faith leaders in your lineage go way back, and you're connecting that through song right now.
Well, actually, this song is about my great-grandmother. Yeah, that's where it came from, because I'd always heard stories about her and how she would pray and how she'd pray for her grandkids and her great-grandkids and those that she would never meet.
Yeah.
And she was a very powerful prayer warrior in person, and I never got to meet her, but I've seen her pictures, and I've heard similarities, and that just captures our imagination. And I think it's hopefully a song everyone can relate to.
Awesome. Well, let's have a look.
All right. All my life I've heard about my grandma's mother, how she would pray for hours every day. She was beautiful, a true disciple. I hope I'm just a little like her, to be so dedicated to my Lord's ways. And in all those prayers she prayed, I know she prayed some for me. They've worked throughout my life, I know they're there for me. And I know you from the photographs and the stories I've heard. I know that you were good and strong and true. I know you've always watched over me, and I hope you're proud of what you see. And I hope I've grown to be just a little bit like you. I can hear him say, please, tell me another story, all about my daddy's grandpa. That carving knife was passed down from him. He carries it, remembering when the old man held him one time in his arms. And though he never really got the chance to know him, still we see it's plain as day where he gets those good qualities. And he knows you from the photographs and the stories he's heard. He knows that you were good and strong and true. He knows you've always watched over him, and he hopes you're proud of what you see. And he hopes he's grown to be just a little bit like you. And the pictures say 1,000 things of the family we've not known, but they live on with us now through the example they have shown. And I know you from the photographs and the stories I've heard. I know that you were good and strong and true. I know you've always watched over me, and I hope you're proud of what you see. And I hope I've grown to be just a little bit like you. And I know you from the photographs and the stories I've heard.
Music, like any art form, can easily be taken for granted. Mozart was the first independent artist to ever be paid for a commissioned musical composition. That would have been sometime around 1785. Since that first transaction, music has been a form of artistry that rewards composers and writers for their talent. Today's young bands hold lofty ambitions of making a career out of music, but with an unlimited amount of free entertainment options, live show and concert attendance is flat, and there is an irreversible decline in the desire to buy music to own. Younger generations still want to listen to music, but have been conditioned to believe it should be free, forcing the question we're all thinking but are too scared to ask. What would happen if artists couldn't afford to create new music anymore? What would happen if the music just stopped? I'm Damon Evans, founder and CEO of Arena Music. Arena Music is the most innovatively disruptive business model the music industry has seen since Napster. It stands alone from other platforms that solely rely on subscription revenue by leveraging free music streaming to attract the listeners we convert to merchandise customers. Arena was formed by working backwards into the solution. We started by saying we want to pay artists a full penny per stream. Then we set about the task of figuring out just how that could be done. When you hear about an artist streaming 10 million tracks on Spotify, or that an album has been in the top 10 at Pandora for 2 weeks, it sounds like a really big deal, but you have to understand how paid subscription services work. From every monthly $10 subscription payment, the platform keeps $4 for overhead, leaving just $6 to be divided between all the tracks streamed by that user in a 30-day period. It's a little-known secret that the most commonly used streaming services are either financed by the major labels or in some way partnered with them. So all this really means is that the deck is beyond stacked against independent artists. It's easy to guess which tracks and titles will get the lion's share of that remaining $6. As a result, artists are struggling to manage the decision between growing their fan base by streaming their music or monetizing their content through some other means while limiting when and how their music is streamed. This is why we say music subscription services are where musicians go to die. This is clearly evident in the fact that not one single subscription platform in existence today, whether publicly traded or financed through multiple rounds of venture capital, has ever turned a profit. Subscription revenue alone simply cannot advance music creation. Arena Music is an on-demand merchandising storefront that leverages a free streaming service to help artists monetize their content in an industry where consumers no longer buy music to own. Arena Music is the first merchandising platform built on the concept of fair pay for artists and free play for listeners. By leveraging music as a loss leader, Arena is helping artists and labels redirect consumer attention to exclusive merchandise offerings. What makes Arena unique from all existing streaming platforms is its ability to monetize its ecosystem with outside industry revenues. Arena's merchandising service also manages the bulk merchandising needs for touring bands, as well as nationally recognized brands who sell soft good products in the automotive, medical, and outdoor sports industries. Being this diversified has allowed us to give music consumers what they want, an ad-free and commercial-free subscription option, while paying artists and labels the highest rates in the world for music streams and merchandise sales.
So, if you had to pick, who are your top 3 artists and why?
Oh, that's a rough question. Well, Reba McEntire has had the biggest influence on me. I mean, her music means a lot to me ever since I was a teenager, and I saw her in concert in the 90s. And
Lucky.
oh yeah, it was the first big concert I went to, and I was like 12 years old, I think, and it just changed everything. I said, that's what I want to do. This is amazing. And I got a Reba songbook, and that's when I started learning keyboard based on that. And
so Reba led you to the keyboard.
Yes, she did, because I wanted to play the songs and I wanted to sing them. And her stuff isn't. I mean, this is not 3-chord country.
No,
Reba
not.
is.
Yeah.
So it was a really good place to learn
Well, it's
from.
a tough act to follow too. She's got amazing range and such a beautiful.
She is, and it
velvety
stretched
voice
me.
and-
It stretched me vocally, and it helped me become a better singer and learn to play, and in a style. And so, yeah, I mean, and I'm still a huge Reba fanatic. Hashtag Reba rules. But I would also say that Amy Grant actually has always had a huge influence on me from the artistic perspective. And I love her music, but it's from her as an artist and what she represents. She was really the biggest.
Her story, she kind of lost it and then took it back, right?
Well,
like
she was
kind of lost it to the pop scene and was like, no, that's not me.
Well, what she did was really change gospel music forever. Before Amy Grant, it was no such thing as you could be a Christian artist and have any kind of crossover into mainstream music at all. And she did that. She was the first to do it, and she has sold more records still than any Christian artist of all time. And she's known from both mainstream music and Christian music. And she was really at the time criticized by the religious community. A lot of religious community stopped playing her records and things because she had a message that was, she was talking about love, and she was being real. She was getting really very real, and there were a lot of folks that didn't like that, and they still hate her. Wow. And she just kept going, and she has still kept a successful career. There's still Christian bookstores that won't sell Amy Grant CDs and music because of
because she crossed into pop.
And because she just refuses to play along with, there's certain things within the religious music community that, standards,
So
I guess you could say.
Outside of CGE.
Yeah, she decided that, you know what, I'm going to be real, and I'm not going to, conform to a specific religious, conservative standard. And she's kind of a hero to me. Amy Grant was really an inspiration when I was a kid. I thought if I was going to be a singer or do anything, that's who I want to be. And
Yeah.
she held fast with all the criticism against her, and she still does. And I just really admire her. Another artist, so musically, Martina McBride. I've sung Martina McBride songs and admired her talent. She's incredible.
Well, she's an incredibly like wonderfully nice person. Too.
She's
like,
amazing.
By all accounts, not that I ever got to meet her, but Martina, if you're ever interested, you can come on down to Phoenix and join us on the Secret Hideout
I actually
show.
did get to meet her once, and it
but,
was amazing.
really?
I got her autograph, and I got a picture with her.
I mean,
and
by all
she's-
accounts, every account that I've ever heard, she's just an incredibly, wonderfully nice person.
yeah.
and super talented.
Well, and she takes risks. From her very first album, The Time Has Come, she has had at least one song on every album that relates to a social justice issue. She's talked about drinking. She's talked about and alcoholism.
abuse.
She's talked about physical abuse and
domestic
violence. She's talked about child abuse and childhood violence. I mean, she has touched on so many issues, and she's very brave about it. And so I admire her, and I admire her talent. And I've sung Independence Day and a lot of those Martina songs. In These Times is one of the best songs for these times right now.
Yeah.
That I plan to cover at future shows. That
Nice.
song, yeah,
Nice. Well, we look forward to it.
awesome.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I love. I don't know how much of this you want to keep. I can just keep talking. I also love everything from like the '80s power ballads, and one of the songs that
like
you're
the big
gonna
hair
hear.
band, like glam band.
Yeah,
stuff.
I love the '80s, like and like one of the songs you're gonna hear later in the show. Before I even knew your name, is kind of trying to base off of somewhat of a '80s power ballad sound, and I also love like Cyndi Lauper and all of those those kinds of sounds, and lately I'm into Queen. Bohemian Rhapsody got me into Queen,
Yeah.
and I've never listened to Queen before, but man, I'm in love with Queen right now.
Yeah, they're
so
they're
really,
a powerhouse for sure.
if you saw my playlist, you would see it go from hard rock to praise and worship to modern country to 90s country to like 80s pop rock.
Wow.
I mean, it's going to go across
the gambit.
across the gambit.
Well, welcome back. We're still here with Christina. We're going to talk to her for just a few more minutes before we finally let her go. But don't worry, you'll get to hear the rest of the music that she played here for us today. So we've established that you have a long history and a family history in music, and that those have been influences, I'm sure, for you as a very young child, as far as being led in that direction into a musical
Sure,
direction
yeah.
and to a performance direction too, because anybody that's been to Christina's church would know that these are performances, and they're fun, and it's not a choir setting, basically. There's a lot of churches that do sort of a choir setting.
Sure.
And this is not that. This is, think deep South, the Black Baptist church with the clapping and the singing and the hallelujahs and all that stuff. And it's a lot of fun. I've actually had the opportunity to be at those services and do some work for your father's church. And those have always been super fun. So we've come that far. We know where you're at now. Where are you going? What do you want to do? Where do you want your music to do?
Right. Well, really, music for me, there's a message with it, and I do have some songs that are, about personal experience and things, and maybe would go on the country side or even the pop side, but I'm always going to be an artist that is focused on a message and is going to bring in social justice and themes, and talking about things that could be controversial, touching on topics that are, political or spiritual or, for the times, and specifically talking about things like social justice. And I think it's important that art
I could not
collide
agree
in
with you
those
more.
areas. If not all artists, that might not be for them, but for me, that's who I am. So I can't be myself if I'm not projecting that.
I really couldn't agree with you more. There's such a long, rich history of music soothing people that are being oppressed or confronting those who are oppressing them.
Right.
There's just so many actions that come through music, and it's really since the beginning of music. I believe that, and I feel like the music industry has moved in a way, along with everything else, not just music, but in a way towards this capitalist market, right? It doesn't matter what the song's about as long as it makes more money.
Right.
And I really feel like when you're aiming in that direction, you're losing the art part of what's going on. I mean, you can't help but think of, in the 60s and 70s, there was Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, For Dead in Ohio. Like, these are controversial songs that are still meaningful today to a lot of people, to a whole generation of people.
Right.
People that are, our parents' age that were around when those things were happening. And I really feel like those things are missing right now from the art. Not all of it, but from the mainstream art. Like those particular songs made it through mainstream and touched a lot of people.
And there are some artists that really do capture that and that take that and, they have been speaking to the times.
Yeah.
And I really respect that. But that's who I want to be. I want to be one of those artists that does that.
So it's not about being rich and famous.
No, definitely not.
Where did you come from? I thought that's what every wanted.
Yeah.
You don't want the princess hat and, the Mariah Carey
Definitely
feathers.
never had the princess hat. I do like wearing hats, though.
Well, Christina, thank you for coming down to join us on the Secret Hideout Show.
Yeah.
You're going to be the first of the new season.
Yay!
Of our
Woo!
new method that we're recording and broadcasting, and hopefully you help us reach a lot of people, and we help them see you. So that's what our goal is here, and I hope that we can do that we can manage that task for
I
you.
hope so. It's so cool what you guys are doing. And
Thank
just
you.
digging into another layer on music and helping local artists and indie artists.
Yeah,
like
well,
me.
I've
wonderful.
I've known you long enough that I think we both really believe in grassroots movements. So
Yeah, I think so.
I think that we can maybe tailor this one towards music.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
kind of keep that specific. So thank you for coming down and being our first artist. And I hope that we can help your career as an artist push forward.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Now let's have a look at the rest of the songs that Christina brought down for us, and we'll put the names on them as they go, and then we will see you guys next week.
I've been searching, feeling so alone. Nowhere to call home, no one to call my own. And still, I wake up every day, hoping for a change, thinking maybe this will be the day. No more fears to fight, no more tears to cry. All my life I've needed someone. Forever I've looked for the one. All my life I've searched for you before I even knew your name. Before I even knew your name. It's been so long, it's time for me to quit. Dreams can't carry it. Lonely days and nights they live, but still I can picture your smile, those eyes that drive me wild, your laughter that brightens dark to light, and I can't help myself. It's an invisible spell. All my life I've needed someone. Forever strong, but it feels so alone, past the point of feeling anything. Look for opportunities, falling on my knees, knocking down the doors that won't open now, numb and too afraid to hope for anything, even though it stares me in the face. And I got what I need in front of me, chances that won't cease before they